Hello and welcome to the Stretford Paddock Podcast. My name is Joe. I'm joined today by Alex Bagley.
I'm good.
How are you?
I beat you to it.
No.
I'm good.
I've just assume I've asked it you. How are you?
I'm tired, mate, to be honest.
Where have you come back from?
From the Nordics.
The
All
Nordics.
over the place.
You've been at the match in Oslo, haven't you?
I was at the match in Oslo, yeah.
So you're going to give us the inside scoop on what happened yesterday.
Yeah,
That absolute,
on Saturday.
well, actually on Saturday.
Saturday,
That
yeah,
absolute
well done.
shambles.
Yeah.
And Jordan's here as well. How are you, Jordan?
Good,
What
mate.
are you
No,
barking for?
you
Jordan?
You know why
for?
I'm barking. So
Why are you
off
barking?
camera,
Weird, no,
we
it
were having
was.
a little barking contest, and it started. Who started it? Because it wasn't me, and he weren't in.
you're
So
lying.
who else was it?
In this
it weren't them live,
episode of the Paddock Podcast, we're going to be doing our 2022-2023 season preview. This isn't just looking at Man United. We're looking at transfers. We're looking at who's done well in the window, who we're expecting to be a dark horse, who is going to impress next season. We'll go through some of the teams. We're not going to do like all the way relegation, all the way up. We've got a preview sort of predictions video coming tomorrow properly. But this is just looking at the season. What do we want to see from United? What do we expect to see? And let's get some depth on that. Everyone get your predictions and thoughts in the comments as well. And I'll read some of those as we go along. Let's start off with... I think we should probably start off with Manchester United.
Shall we?
No, actually, we'll come to Man United in a minute.
Okay.
Let's start with
Oh,
Arsenal.
that is a swift
Let's start with
contradiction,
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
Because I'm already sick of them.
I am as well.
Gabriel Jesus, I've scored 7 goals in pre-season. Yeah, what award does that win you exactly? Nothing. Right. So Arsenal, they've spent the most of any Premier League side this season. Just here's a few stats for you. Bringing in 5 new players. Gabriel Jesus for around 46 million. Zinchenko for 31. Fabio Vieira for 31. Matt Turner for 5. And Marquinhos for 3.15. Like I said, Jesus is the one everyone's talking about. Apparently, he's the most highly picked player in FPL this season.
That's 'cause he's
so this
cheap.
is the hype around him.
It's because he's a bit cheap, I think. I think that's the reason on FPL he's a bit cheap. But I don't know. He was still a backup striker to no striker last season, and there's a reason behind that. I don't think he's as good as everyone's making out. The way they're going on about him in pre-season, the way that he's getting bigged up, but Anthony Martial isn't. I mean, obviously, difference in numbers. 7 goals is a few more than 3 or 4 that Anthony Martial scored, but he's had a good pre-season as well. But I'm not thinking he's going to score 30 goals this season.
No.
And in the same way, I don't think Jesus will. I think he'll have a good season. I think he'll score 10 or 12 in the league. But I don't think he's the difference in Arsenal being where they are. I don't think he's that much better than Lacazette. I don't think he's ridiculously much. He's not light years ahead of him. And then you've got Zinchenko, 30 million quid for someone that Pep wanted to get rid of, and he just went, no, keep me here for a bit. That's what he said, and ended up playing because of various reasons of them not replacing him.
Yeah.
That's why he's got in the team, and he's a good technical footballer. And remember, City won the league first under Pep with Fabian Delph at left back, so it's not like it's the most key position.
He's a
for
good
them.
player, Zinchenko. He is.
Not
But
brilliant,
30
though.
million for a left back is a lot of money.
Too much.
And
what do we pay for
he was basically 30 million.
Yeah.
Was
And
it
that's
a lot
too
of
much
money?
as well.
And he was always a backup left back, Zinchenko. He just sort of John O'Shade his way into playing week in, week out because they didn't have a top class option in front of him. The players they bought in, regardless of what was going on off the field, was shit on the field. And then they've had more options at when Cancelo and Walker have been fit, it's mostly been them two. Zinchenko's a decent player, but 30 million
I think
is a lot of money.
What they've done there is they spent 70 million or 80 million quid on like when Saha and maybe you bought John O'Shea off United.
Yeah.
In 2008.
Yeah.
That's what you've done there. You've taken the backup left back that fills in everywhere and the striker that doesn't score as many goals as all the other ones, and you've taken him. I don't think he's as good a signing as we'll go into Chelsea. I think Sterling's a much better signing for Chelsea than what Jesus is for Arsenal. I don't know. I think they're playing good football, but I think that this will be a season where obviously they've got Europa League, which we know is going to be bad for our squad. I think it'll be the same for them. I think we'll see this season there will be a tail off. I don't think that squad has got consistent quality. I don't think it's good enough all the way through. I think there's some good players. I think they play nice football. But that's been Arsenal for a very, very long time. And I just don't think... You look at what Pep's done at City and how good those players are to do that system. They're not the level of what Arsenal have got. Arsenal have got a lot worse players. Not many of them players would get into City's team, and trying to play a similar thing, it's just not going to happen.
Sorry, I'm just trying to look up some stats on Gabriel Jesus here, because there's a lot of people in the comments saying, he's an absolute baller, he's this, he's that. This is how many goals he's got by season in the Premier League, right? So he joined in 2016-17, 7 goals. 2017-18, 13 goals. 2018-19, 7 goals. Then his best ever season in 34 games, 14 goals, which is substantially less than a goal every other game. Then 2021, he got 9 goals. Last season, he got 8 goals. And in terms of appearances, I know a lot of these are off the bench, but it's 29, 29, 34, 29, 28. Like, he's not playing 6 games a season.
No.
I know he's not their first choice striker, but he's never got 15 goals in a Premier League season. And in terms of most goals, he got 23 goals one season, but 6 of his goals were, I don't even know where they were. I can't even see what content is that. I suppose that's Europe. So that's pretty good. But I just 23 goals is his maximum in a season, and that season he played 53 games. So it's still well less than a goal every other game, or less than a goal every other game. He's a good player. But let's also not forget, he's playing in the best team in England, arguably the best team in Europe for all of those seasons. He's not like grafting it out at Blackburn. Do you know what I mean? This is a player who is playing for the highest scoring, best team in England, who make the most chances of anyone in England, and he's never got 15 Premier League goals. He's a good player, but I think it's hard. He's far better than Martial.
See, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Do you like it?
I think it will be very good for him. I think he'll actually probably outscore all of the seasons he's had at City in the Premier League. I think maybe even this season. I've got a feeling that they've got a really good coup there in the sense that Arteta's worked with him before. He knows what he's about. Obviously, he can play 2 different positions. He can play as a central 9, which it looks like he's going to. Obviously, they've lost Lacazette. They lost Aubameyang halfway through last season. They've got a little understanding between all the Brazilians there, but that annoys me. They're all buzzing about how many Brazilians are in the team, etc. Blah blah blah. But they've got Liga Portuguese's most creative player last season, Fabio Vieira, in terms of assists. I think it was something like 17. I want to say off the top of my head, might be a little bit less, but if you can confirm that, that'd be fantastic. Gabriel Jesus up top. He'll run all day. He'll be niggler. He'll press, and I just think they've got a coup there. Zinchenko, I'm not too sure about for 30 mil. City are laughing when they bought him as, I think it was something for like 8 mil or something, as a 10. They had too many injuries at full back, and they played him left back, and he just stayed there. He couldn't even get in the midfield, which is fair enough considering how much talent they've got over there. But I just think he's going to be very, very good for him. I do. I
think it might be good, but I just think I think they're just not. All the players they brought in don't stand out to me. I don't think they're not much better than what they had. I don't think they make them. I think, like you've mentioned, they've lost Lacazette and Aubameyang, and they've replaced him with Jesus. If we'd have done that, we kind of have. Everyone's going. We've lost Cavani and the question marks over Ronaldo. A lot of goals, and we've replaced him with our striker that wasn't even in the squad last season in Martial, and everyone's kicking off. And I think that's kind of the level of strikers they had is nowhere near as good as Cavani and Ronaldo, and they've replaced him with someone that, like I said, was a backup to nobody last season. I think it's an okay signing, but I don't think it takes them any. And I think this was the thing that Ollie got to. You've got this point where you move along steadily, and I think Arteta's done that. He's took them to 7th and 5th. They've won the FA Cup. They're doing all right. But there's got to be a point when you're Arsenal, United, Liverpool, whatever it gets to, where you have to go and try and win the Premier League and try and compete at the top level. And I think Ollie gambled last year and went, well, I need Ronaldo and Varane to do that because I'm not going to get the midfielders I want or whatever. I'm not going to get another 2 years to keep building. And I think that's going to get to Arsenal. I think they probably will finish 5th again this year. And I think you just get to the point of go, that's just what they're going to keep doing. They're going to buy these players that are...
Also, you're buying cast-offs from teams that are better than you.
Yeah,
they're going to try to get to that level, or are you just going to buy the worst players from a team that is bigger than yours? Yeah. I understand that United obviously aren't getting close to Manchester City and Liverpool at the moment. We went backwards last season. But there was a time there where we were genuinely... What was it? Christmas the season before last we were top, or New Year's Day the season before last we were top. When Arsenal haven't done that in 15 years. Or, thereabouts. So I understand it. Raheem Sterling has outscored Gabriel Jesus in every season except one, the time they've both been at Manchester City. They've both been sold for roughly 45, 46 million quid. Sterling's had 23, 25, 31 goal seasons, 14 and 17 in his last 2 seasons as well. Like I said, outscored Jesus in all of those seasons. I think he's a much better sign. I think that's one that City actually might regret a little bit. I think Sterling's a very good player.
I can't believe he's gone for
not
that
a finisher, but the fact that you've managed to get 31 goals out of Raheem Sterling in a season when his finishing is as bad as it is, he's obviously positionally very good. Obviously, the system's great. People in the comments saying about how he's never had a team built around him, Gabriel Jesus. That's because you don't build teams around people like Gabriel Jesus. That's why. Like, come on.
You could argue it because he's a centre forward. And if he's your main focal point for goals,
But
if he's going to be... No, but that's the thing, he will do it.
The Brazil manager literally said to him, where do you want to play? And
he said right wing, didn't he? I think he's right wing.
I'll play on the left. He didn't want to play there, and he doesn't play for Brazil anymore. He doesn't get into the team because he'd rather have Firmino there. So he's not even getting into the Brazil team ahead of the defensive striker and Firmino that no one likes. I don't think he's that good, because I think that if he was that good, he'd have played last season a lot more games. He didn't. And if he was that good, he'd play for Brazil, which he doesn't at the moment. I think he's an okay player, and like I said, I think he'll score 12 goals this year, and Arsenal will finish fifth because Odegaard will do all right, the rest will do all right. Vieira will come in and look nice, like Odegaard's done and Smith Rowe's done, but they're all the same player. You know, United, they all got these number 10s that just are all right on the ball. They're all right. Just gonna finish fifth and play some nice football, and then get beat 2-0 off Palace. That's what'll happen.
Yeah. It does happen every year, and then come on, it does.
It does. That's what they do.
So they were like, I know they finished with United, so which just pains me, but it's the first time in 7 years they finished in front of United, or whatever it is, 6 years. And yes, they've improved, but I just think the way that they got to fifth last season was so fortunate. Like Man United and Tottenham literally both had manager sacking seasons. We were both that bad that we sacked our managers, and they only just finished above us.
I think the only reason
without Europe.
I think the only reason they finished above West Ham is they fancied to win the Europa League.
Yeah, exactly.
I think West Ham would
have Europe. They'd be seventh.
I think West Ham would have finished fifth last year. If honestly,
Probably,
without Europa League, I think they finished.
They'd have finished above United
because they were better than
awful.
United. Also,
I was going to say, where the hell would we have finished?
Oh yeah,
we were
dreadful.
If West Ham didn't have Europa and sackings weren't done or anything like that.
I think I completely agree. But I just think that West Ham would have finished with Arsenal. I don't think anyone's going on about West Ham winning the league because they've signed Scamacca now. And I think he's a better player than Jesus. Like, I just think that I just don't think they're that good. I think they're all right. Fifth place. There you go. Done.
Yeah, they absolutely. They had everything going for them, and they still couldn't finish top four last season. Tottenham sacked their manager, and Arsenal were happy to finish behind.
Tottenham sacked two managers, didn't they?
Well, they sacked one at the start.
Weren't Nuno
season.
at the start of the season, like four games in?
Yeah.
Then Mourinho come in.
No. Mourinho got sacked at the end of last year. Nuno started the season.
Was that the other way around?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how bad Tottenham's season was.
I don't know.
Tottenham sacked their manager, right?
Lost 7 games
and their
in a row.
new manager lost 6 games in a row, threatened to quit, and still finished above Arsenal, who had their new messiah of a manager managing them all season with no Europe.
I just think Arsenal have done okay, but you have to at some point go, right, we've got to do something to try and win the league here. And I don't think Gabriel Jesus is the player that's going to... If they'd have signed Sterling, if they'd have gone out and gone, we're signing Sterling, someone who scored 30 goals in a season before, who is potentially on his day one of the best wingers in the country, has done that, you go... Okay, they fancy it, and I still think that's what United tried to do last year, and it just didn't happen. But they're going to be fifth, sixth, boring. Yeah, they'll sound good, and that'll be it.
Yeah, I reckon Arteta might get sacked this season.
Amazing.
Because do you know when managers tend to get sacked when the expectation goes up, and finally it's like we need to get top four.
Yeah.
Last season they would have been happy with Europa League. And because they almost got top four, this season, you're getting that Ole third season of you finished second last year, so if you want to keep improving, you've got to win something. If he looks like he's not going to win something, I think he might get sacked. Before we move on to Manchester United, City, Liverpool, all the big boys, the real big boys, let's talk about today's sponsor, Manscaped.
Oh.
It's been a while, hasn't it, Alex? We've been gone, but Manscaped never go. If we could just get on the screen, Ethan, remember... Yes, there we go. If you haven't heard already, Smooth Sack Summer is here. Jordan, what do you make of that?
Smooth Sack Summer. I love that piece of alliteration.
It's nice, isn't it? Do you know how you get a little Ziploc bag and water just drips off it, doesn't it? That's what Manscaped provides for you. Yeah. When you're playing the summer sun, you need to make sure you're scaped from pubes to bum.
Yes.
Great little-
That doesn't even make sense though, because you still have pubes on your bum. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Your pubes and your bum are,
Yeah.
you know. That's right. Sorry. This is the summer to keep cool and keep your balls cool whilst looking hot with Manscaped. And if you use the code
Devil's 20.
Devils20, you get
Devils
20%
20.
off and free shipping.
Yeah.
That is 20% off and free shipping. Now, in the past, it's not always been so easy to sort yourself out downstairs. Because now, do you remember there was a period when people used to get like Nike ticks and like Umbro badges in the back of their hair?
Yeah.
I've got that down there.
And you can do it yourself.
I
What
can
brand
do it
though?
myself, huh?
Which brand?
Manscaped logo.
That's impressive.
Because
That's a difficult one.
because-
On them to
And
do.
what have you done that with?
I've done
what,
that.
what have you done it with?
using the Lawnmower 4.0 that I got from the performance package, because it's so precise, it's so perfectly catered to my nuts and bolts that I can do pretty much anything with it. I've carved it into a swan. I use the
All at
sides
the same
as
time.
tufts, and they're both sort of two lion's heads, that you see on the side of posh driveways. I have that. I've topiaried. Do you know what I mean?
That's
I've
impressive.
got two ornamental lions
And you could do it in the
adorning
dark
my
as well,
piece.
because there's a light on it.
And you can do it in the dark because there's a light on there. But honestly, in the past, I said this before, I bought a £5
You did.
Oh no.
from a
no.
reliable high street chemist.
Right.
£5, $4.99, all the clippers, all the guards. Basically, turned that thing into spaghetti down there. It was an abomination.
Spaghetti.
But with Manscaped, I've managed to sculpt it back together and retain its structural integrity. That's because they offer the Lawnmower 4.0. It's got a 7,000 RPM motor. Like you said, multifunction on-off switch, so you can lock it before you put it in your travel bag,
You did that
which
before
is
you
great.
went away?
I did that before I went away.
Safe.
Yeah, and also not just safe, but you don't want to get there and you realise, oh, it's been on for 18 hours on my
I've
flight.
now drained the battery.
There's no battery
I
in it.
can't.
Exactly.
What if you're meeting a lady friend over there,
know
or
what I
wherever
mean?
you're going to go, or if you're travelling to meet a lady friend and for some
man
reason
friend.
you've packed
man
it,
friend.
or a man friend, or whatever you like, all of a sudden you realise you've left it on and you've not done the business because you ain't had time.
No.
Exactly.
Right?
No good.
You don't have to worry about that with Manscaped.
Safe.
Due to their multifunction on-off switch. They've also got liquid formulations, ball toner deodorant. They've also got the ball reviver as well,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
just perks you
Just
up.
on the go.
Yeah,
It's like-
sometimes you want to go straight from work and you want to nip out for a few drinks. But hang on, who's there? There you are. I want to impress still.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you just do a little top up throughout the day, don't you? That's the reviver right there. And again, make sure you check out Manscaped. They help us out. They're a brilliant company. And I genuinely use them all the time. This isn't like you watch adverts and you're like, oh, yeah, right. Do you really use Angelo's insurance or whatever? Manscaped is the only thing I use on my spuds.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So make sure you check out Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping. A special deal using the code DEVILS20. That's 20% off and free shipping using the code DEVILS20. Get on board or get left behind. It's smooth sack summer, guys.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Link in
love
the
that.
description as well. Should we talk about Man United?
Let's talk about Man United.
May as well, innit?
Finally.
May as well.
I mean, we know about Manchester United, don't we? Let's be honest. Man United have currently signed 3 players.
Yep.
Christian Eriksen, we've signed Lisandro Martinez, and we've signed Terrell Malacia.
I like all of them.
You like all of them? What are
Yeah.
your thoughts? Let's start with the ins. Get your thoughts in the comments as well. Do you like the players we have signed so far? Because we
Yes.
get so caught up on De Jong and this and that and Shesko and da-da-da-da-da. You almost forget, here's who we've got. Martinez, Eriksen, Malacia. What are your thoughts on them, Jordan?
I'm happy with all 3 in different reasons. Least happy with initially, I think, was Malacia. When you think we were already top heavy on fullbacks on the left hand side, you had Brandon Williams coming back off loan. He played a shitload of games for Norwich, although
Yeah.
they still went down. You've still got Telles and you've still got Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw struggles with injury. Telles hasn't really been
It has been well.
massively good,
He's
to be
been
honest.
dreadful.
No.
But then you hear that Ten Hag wanted Malacia when he was at Ajax, but they couldn't sign him because of the whole sort of rivalry between Feyenoord and Ajax at the time. Anyway, he was probably the one I was least happy with until I've saw the past few performances. He looks dynamic, he looks aggressive, he looks good on the ball. Very heavily left-footed, but he's giving me like a Valencia sort of look. You know, very heavy-footed on one side, but he's got power, he's got pace, he can drive at players. So I'm happy with that. Eriksen, I'm second happy with.
Okay.
Because
Second
I'm
Second
second happy
happy.
with because Lisandro's top happy, right? Martin Eriksen is
Top
second
happy.
happy, yeah,
Jordan
top happy,
is learning to speak again after
yeah.
basically a big
I'm
lunch.
second happy with Eriksen
Yeah.
because we've lost
You
4.
did journalism at university.
I'm second happy with Christian Eriksen because we've lost 4 players in the centre of the park, here or there. You can count Lingard, essentially. Yeah. Pogba, Matic, Mata. You need to just replace him. You need to have squad depth, and maybe he won't start every single game, but I do think at the start of the season he'll be heavily involved because I don't know where we're going to go with midfield incomings. But I'm happy with him. He brings a little bit of quality that we don't really have in the middle of the park. I do actually think he could do Paul Pogba's role better. For maybe 1 or 2 seasons max, even though he hasn't really got the legs, he's not got the power
to be doing. Because the thing with Paul Pogba is, because he's so good at so many things when he's at his best. His dribbling's fantastic, his touch is great, his passing range is great. He can track back as well, he can get a tackle in. You almost think he has to do all of them all the time, but really, what United wanted him to do was get the ball off Fred and pass it to Rashford, Bruno, Ronaldo, or Sancho. And he didn't really do that often enough. He stands on the ball for too long. He wants to fight someone off before he passes it. It's great that he can do that, and occasionally you need to, but he would almost force situations where he had to fight someone off the ball before he'd pass it. And it's like, you could do your job better if you avoided those situations rather than creating them in order to look good at the thing you're good at. I think Eriksen could easily do the job that Pogba was doing. My only concern is, even when we had Paul Pogba, we still needed someone to play behind him. We still needed someone who, regardless of their playing style, would sit in front of the defence, would be positionally disciplined, and keep the ball and rotate possession for Man United. Fred is a improving player who seems to have found his role at United, but he isn't positionally disciplined. Like, there were times last season, that Wolves game at the start of the season, where he was just skinned alive by Adama Traore. Not only was he just physically and speed-wise outmatched by Traore, he was just in the wrong place all the time. Traore would just knock the ball down the middle of the pitch, and Fred would be like, see you later. I should have been there. Now you've reminded me. Next time I'll do it. And then next time he was in the wrong place again. Like, I just think we need someone who is always in the right place, whether that's a Carrick style or Hargreaves style. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a particular style. It just needs to be someone, Frankie de Jong is a good example, who can sit deep and can do that job. Or we need someone like, Basuma or something like that who can win the ball back. But I worry that we still need that player,
That's the point.
regardless of how good Eriksen is.
I'm worried. I liked
worry.
Eriksen. I think he's looked really good in the few games, the few minutes you've seen him. He looked... The first pass he did, I think it was how long he was on the pitch against Atletico Madrid. That pass over the top he tries for Rashford.
Was his left foot or his right foot?
Right foot was ridiculous. And there was a left foot switch yesterday.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of yesterday.
I think it was out to Tellez. It was just ridiculous. And you're like, he's got the quality, but I do question where he kind of fits. Because look, Bruno I think is going to play, and I think he's looked very good. And I think with that fluid front three ahead, I think that's where Bruno fits best. But I don't see it being Fred, Eriksen, Bruno. I just don't see that being the case. No. Maybe he'll try it against Brighton and really go for it, but I think that's quite a risk, and I still think he might just revert back to Fred McTominay, which he's liked. But yeah, I've liked it. I like Malacia. I think you mentioned they're like aggressive. That Atletico Madrid game was so intense, and I don't think the one thing I've liked about all United playing that game, there wasn't one where you thought they're not backing out of things, not backing out of things, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Every single player looked up for it, and that's even your Lindelofs, who you'd maybe question in the past, Delo, Fred McTominay. That's one of their main attributes. They look brilliant at it, but Malacia doing what he was doing, flying into tackles with quality as well. It wasn't just needless. He's looked really good, and then Martinez, he looks very good.
Yeah, he looks really classy,
good.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think I watched the game yesterday, and then I went back and watched the individual highlights of all the touches he had, and he's just. I keep saying this, but it's like when he's on the ball, he doesn't look like a centre back. He's got such control over his body. And I mean, I hate to say it because I think Varane's a great player, but sometimes when Varane's running to the ball or dribbling with the ball, he's got a strange sort of gait to him where he's kind of. You can see he's almost using his brain to get his legs in the right places, and he's kind of stepping and he passes it and whatever. Martinez, it's so fluid, and he looks like an attacker almost, the way he holds the ball and the way he understands the space around him and his dribbling skill. He's brilliant. He's certainly the best at United I've seen at that, even from the short clips I've seen. So not the best at United, but the best player United have had in his previous games at Ajax. His dribbling and his positioning and the way he holds the ball is he just looks completely at home with the ball at his feet.
The
and
question
I think that's
is
really
whether he drops Lindelof essentially for it, or whether he just goes with, this is what we've played for most of the pre-season. They've had most of the time. I'm comfortable with this. Let's go with it. I think it might be that until 2 or 3 weeks in, and then he just goes right. I still think Martinez Maguire is going to be the pairing, and I think I'm happy with that. I think Maguire's looked really good in pre-season. I thought he was excellent against Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, it was.
I think the way he brings the ball out, people have been questioning whether he's going to suit Ten Hag, but I thought he was brilliant at that. A lot of very, very good recovery tackles as well, which people again question him. I think he's had a great pre-season, did well against Atletico. I think him and Martinez, I think Varane's looked shaky. I just don't think he looks... I don't think he's the player we all thought we were getting. I thought he was going to be the one that was the one ahead of Maguire always, and I just don't think he is.
It's weird that, isn't it?
It's really weird.
Isn't it mad? And I know that it's not for certain, and some of it could be down to the fact that he's had a little injury in pre-season, Varane, but it does seem from everything we're hearing that, as in not directly to me, but through journalists and through the media and through what Ten Hag's saying, that Maguire is above Varane in the pecking order.
I think it's Maguire. Then I think it's Lindelof and Martinez on a level at the minute, mainly because Lindelof's been in the team longer and is more comfortable. And then I think it's Varane after that. I think it's definitely. I think he's down there. I think Maguire's starting. I think the question mark's over that. We'll see from there. But it is mad. I was watching it yesterday, and you go in our B team here. We've got Varane, Eriksen, and Cristiano Ronaldo, and we're not comfortable. And this is our secondary. Who would have said 2 years ago we're going to have Rafa Varane, Christian Eriksen, and Cristiano Ronaldo in our second string team, and it's going to be a bit crap? Because that's essentially what it is at the minute. It doesn't seem. It seems weird.
No, they look way off the. They didn't play like the first team we've been playing. They look like United last season, where it was just like, we'll kind of figure it out as we go along. We're all good players, aren't we, lads? Let's work this out. Whereas the first team have got an intensity that is almost worryingly frantic at times. But at least there's an obvious change. A lot of those players yesterday just looked a bit like, we'll be all right because we're better than these. We've got a few super chats. Let's start with Alex Buckingham's. He said City have had Arsenal's pants down. The thing is, I think it improves Arsenal, but for 80 million, you are getting two of the worst players in a team that is better than you. That is an odd way to close the gap, if you ask me. Like, it's a bit. I don't quite understand that model.
I don't think Arsenal are trying to close the gap on City at the minute. I think they're trying to close the gap on us and Spurs. I think that's go to there first, and then maybe.
And to be honest, that
kind of makes sense. But I just don't think they're anywhere near. They're not going to challenge for the title. No chance.
Tomboy says City are weaker for selling Jesus, stealing Zinchenko. I agree with that. Arsenal have a stronger squad. Jesus is better than Martial. Who wants to sign Martial? The thing is, he might well have a better season than Martial. He might, but Martial has had better seasons than Jesus has ever had. But they are further in the past than Jesus has had good years. I get it. I'm not saying that right now Martial is better than Jesus. I just think they are comparable, and I don't think either of them are worth 50 million quid. IQ 1985, expect Martial to drop off as soon as he gets competition. We keep offering players clean slates. Belated happy birthday, Joe. Thank you very much. Big up, Sloppy Joes. Thank you very much. It remains to be seen with Martial this season, doesn't it? The last time he played a full season as the number 9, he got 23 goals in all competitions.
This is the thing. Us saying that Jesus isn't worth 50 million quid and isn't a great sign for Arsenal doesn't mean I'm thinking that Anthony Martial's the best striker.
Should sign for a world record.
I don't think that we should have had Martial going into the season. I think we should have bought another striker, but we haven't, and I think that's where the question mark is. I think those things are a good question to have. I do think he'll drop off. I do think that there's a problem with him being, anytime a Ronaldo or Zlatan's come in, or even Rashford's trying to take his place, he has dropped off and looked worse for it. That is a worry, but he's looked good in pre-season. I've liked what he's done, and we have to give him the benefit of the doubt because we've not signed another striker.
And also, every single season that Martial's played for Man United, he hasn't been in a league-winning team.
No, he's been
and Man City have. Also, in terms of able to play games, City are getting to like finals and semi-finals every single year. United struggle to get to semi-finals. There are more games that Jesus could have played for City. He still didn't get particularly outscored Martial over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. I just think that, excluding the last 2 years, which fair enough, they're the most recent 2, I just don't think he's proven himself to be much better than Martial over the last 5 years.
No.
We've got another super chat. Calling it now, this is Andres Karlstrom. Chelsea and Arsenal will both finish outside the top 4 and sack their managers, United and Spurs, to fight for third. I could see that. And obviously, I think if you're saying the odds of that, I think it's less than 50%. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arteta left because they don't live up to expectation, like I said before. And I think if Ibrahimovic was still the owner of Chelsea, Tuchel will be out before Christmas. Because he just looks like he's losing it there.
I think there was probably a question whether Tuchel lasted the season. If Ibrahimovic was around, I think there'd been questions last season. I think if United hadn't been so bad last season, the question marks would have been a lot about Chelsea. I think that if we'd have had Chelsea season last season, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have got the sack. You know, the way they got knocked out of the Champions League by, you know, being battered by Madrid and then kind of throwing it away when they got back into it. Yeah. They then, you know, losing those finals against Liverpool, which is, look, it was penalties and all that, but doing that and being so far off them after spending so much money on Lukaku.
Yeah. And the season before that, and just because Lampard spent it doesn't mean it wasn't real money. They spent 250 million quid in the transfer window. So it's not like they've not invested over the last few years, is it?
No, it's an odd one, Chelsea, because I mean, the Champions League is the biggest trophy, one of the biggest trophies, so it is the best thing to have. But at the same time, I think they are clinging on to that a little bit. That it was just a cup run. It feels like that was it. They had a cup run under Tuchel, and that's kind of been it. Because I don't think they've been too impressive in the league since.
They've never been that good
they've
since.
They've not won another trophy.
They got to 2 finals, though.
They got to 2 finals. Yeah, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got to finals and got slated for it. Like, I think that you get to that point where you go, have they lived up to what they've got? And they've made big signings this summer still. Again, obviously, Lukaku going back out again. They've lost Rudiger and Christensen, but they've still signed Koulibaly, who everyone's going on. I'm
not convinced by Koulibaly.
I just think Koulibaly and Silva, both very, very good defenders, but they're both slow. They're both not this, you know, you need someone in a 3. You need to have... You know, they did best last season with like Sarr, who did a lot of the recovery.
Didn't they?
They wanted him. Yeah, and I don't think that they've got enough there to kind of do that. There's rumours about Fofana, but I don't know about that. And there's question marks over. There's this report today about Cucurella, you know, being Chelsea wanting him. That to me, I saw someone say that's a question mark over Chilwell recovering from this injury. He's not got that pace again, or he's not quite up to it after an ACL. Was it an ACL he did? Was it something? It was bad, wasn't it?
It was a severe injury, yeah.
He might just not be up to it again, and now you've got to replace him because everyone goes, well, they've got Chilwell come back this year, so he's going to be better.
But they also don't really have a striker. They've got Havertz, who's like a 10-ish striker, false 9. They've got Werner, who looks like he might be leaving. Can't score, and they've got Lukaku, who's left. They need.
I like Sterling.
It remains to be seen with Chelsea. I think. The next month, is it the 1st of September, the end of the transfer window, or the 30th of August, whatever? They need a big August in the transfer window because otherwise I think they're going to really struggle. Let's move on to Spurs then. Everyone's favourite team now. Everyone loves them, and everyone doesn't let us forget that we could have had Conte if you'd have wanted to, which is why everyone loves them even more because it's a chance to have a dig at United for not getting Conte. So far, their window, Richarlison, 52 million. Yves Bissouma, 26 million. Jed Spence, 13 million. Perisic, Forster, both free transfers. And then Longley, who's a loan from Barcelona. Really drifting into sort of Conte territory now, aren't they? We've got your Perisic, your Bissouma. You've got like Kane and Heung-min Son as well, who are just great players. Everyone's tipping these to be the ones that are pushing that second spot.
I feel like
some people saying they're going to win the league.
I feel like it's going to be an Inter 2.0 when you think about sort of the similar signings that they've made. They like older wing backs. We saw even when he was at Chelsea, Victor Moses was playing wing back. He was a bit part player everywhere else he's been to. He turned Victor Moses into one of the best players in the league at that time. Ivan Perisic he trusts because he's won titles with him in Italy. He had Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez up top. He had basically 2 people who knew each other inside out, who can play off each other's strengths and weaknesses. And they've got that naturally with Kane and Heung-min Son. He's got 2 sort of destroyers in midfield. At Inter Milan, he had Marcelo Brozovic and Arturo Vidal in the middle. Here now he's got Højbjerg and Yves Bissouma, who I do, and I said this to Joe a couple of videos ago, I think we missed a trick on him for 25 mil, 26 mil. I do.
I think
He'd have been a brilliant squad player, if not a starter.
Yeah.
Considering, as I mentioned, we lost 4 players already.
The thing with Bissouma is, I think he probably would start for us, but I just don't think he's of a level that is closing the gap above to the teams above us. I don't think he's I don't know. I think he's all right. I don't think he's much more than that. Maybe he will be, and maybe he's going to be. The thing with Conte is he does get the best out of players. This team will perform to its maximum potential. I think that will happen, which is I think they'll probably finish third because of what we said about Chelsea and Arsenal. Jed Spence, that could go either way. You buy players who have played most of their games in the Championship. That's
they've got two wing backs already. Matt Doherty and Emerson Royale.
Yeah, Emerson Royale is awful.
And Matt
He reminds me of Wan-Bissaka.
I would rather.
He reminds me of Wan-Bissaka. He reminds me of Wan-Bissaka in how he moves. He really does.
He's crap.
The thing with the thing with Conte as well is though, he spits his dummy out so quickly. You saw what happened at Chelsea, where they won the league. Then they had that big thing where he texted Diego Costa and went, "We don't need you anymore, mate. Off you go." And then all of a sudden they didn't get Lukaku and they got Morata instead. And then it just kind of fizzled, and that was him done. His head fell off, and that was it.
Yeah,
he did the same thing at Inter Milan. He obviously did very well, but then they went, "I know we've signed all these players for you, but we've got to sell them all now because we couldn't afford that."
Because it turned out we had no money because we haven't won a trophy in 10 years.
Yeah, so we've got to sell all these players now.
We haven't won a trophy since Jose left, and we spent 200 million last year.
So we've got to sell them all, and he went, "Cool, right, bye."
Yeah,
and that was it. And I just think that Tottenham have obviously done better. I think they've backed him and got the players he wanted. I don't think United go out and give him Perisic. And we've done this in the past. We've got Matic from Jose and things like that.
Jose literally wanted Perisic,
and these kind of players. And you just think, I just don't think United do it. I don't think United go down this. Let's back a manager for 3 years and sign 30-year-olds that are going to be gone as soon as it's done. I don't think he does that. And I just think that it's that situation of if they go a bit Spursy about it and lose some finals, lose a semi-final, don't get a bad Champions League group and get beat, say they're still, they're not challenging by... Because everyone's saying they're going to challenge. If they aren't challenging by November, Conte might just go, well, that's that then, innit? And just, I'm gone. That could happen. And I just think that... I think they've done very well in the transfer market. I think they've signed some good players. I like Conte as a manager. But I just think that 2 or 3 years he gives them, if they don't do it very quickly, I think he goes earlier because I don't think he trusts this lot as much as he trusts.
And he's the sort of manager,
Chelsea and players like that.
Like Arteta, Arsenal don't have to worry about this, but Conte is the sort of manager that if the Real Madrid job comes up, or if the PSG job comes up, or if the Bayern Munich, he's the sort of manager that might just leave. He could leave at any point in the season just to join a better club. Let alone because Tottenham aren't doing very well.
Like you talked about Tuchel getting sacked. Tuchel gets sacked in November, and then new board goes, tell you what, why don't you have your old job back?
Yeah.
It was not this Abramovich that you didn't like anymore. Bring him in, and that's it. And then that could happen. Like you said, he is that kind of manager that goes, I'm going.
Yeah. You guys are just hating. We bought Wan-Bissaka for 50 million. Zinchenko for 30 is a deal. Wan-Bissaka wasn't worth 50 million. That doesn't make Zinchenko worth 30.
It was sort of English tax, wasn't it? They knew we wanted him. They knew we needed a right back.
Yeah.
Why would they let him go for anything else when they can literally rinse Man United? There's Man United tax and everything as well anyway. Just look at the whole Anthony pursuit. He went up about 30 million after a week. He went up 20 million more after 2 days.
I love that.
What mathematician is smoking
it's like
something
trying to buy
there?
a house in Levenshulme. Just doubles every 20 minutes. You look at how is it 500 grand now? This house was bought for 50 grand 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Right. Let's move on. Let's talk about Liverpool.
Can we keep this swift, please?
We'll try to keep it swift because we'll keep it swift. Liverpool have bought, Nunes, essentially. That's who they've bought. 80 million euro. Well, no, fuck it, 100 million euros. Because those add-ons are like, make him eat a bag of crisps and we'll give you 20 million quid.
Yeah.
Like one of them is £1 million every time he plays, up until 5 games a season. It's like, okay, well, that's 5 million quid.
That is the Martinez. Have you seen the Martinez one? It's like we paid them 66 grand or something every appearance up until a certain thing.
So basically, we're paying his wages twice.
Yeah.
That's weird. Talk to me about Liverpool.
I think they're weaker than last year. I think
Yeah.
I think they've got some good players in
nice,
there.
that.
I think they've, but not much weaker. But Mane's a big player that they've lost.
Yeah.
I think they've signed some good. I think Núñez is good, but I think he's got that air of, people have been saying Lukaku and stuff like that. But I do think it's like that, where the same thing that Lukaku had with Chelsea last season is he scored some goals early on and everyone went, look, he does it, he scores goals, he's great. I think if he goes on those dry spells and doesn't get any goals, I think people get on his back. And I think, I think the overreaction of him winning the Community Shield and scoring him going mad, I don't think helps him. I think it just kind of goes, he knows he's under pressure to score goals. And if he doesn't score goals, I think he's just going to get worse.
He was decent in that game. He was decent in the Community Shield. He missed a good chance. He was 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper and didn't lift it over him. Strikers miss those chances all the time. 4.3 million will come after Núñez makes 10 appearances for Liverpool. Tricky. Another 8.5 will come after he makes 60. So, assuming he ever plays for Liverpool, they're paying 15 million extra. And then a final 8.5 will depend on the individual and collective performance. So, who knows the details of that? But literally, if he plays 60 games for Liverpool, they're spending another 13 million on him. So, basically, they've spent 100 million on him. I think he's good. I think he will score goals for them. But like you said, I wouldn't swap him for Mane. If I was Liverpool, the way they've got that team structured, the way they play, they need top-class wingers more than they need a top-class striker. And I'm not sure he is a top-class striker. The only thing that sort of softens the blow slightly is Diaz, who does look certainly brilliant up until the 18-yard box. I think if he doesn't score enough goals...
but is that a comparison to what Mane's output was?
Yeah.
Even when your wingers aren't necessarily expected to score X amount of goals, I think they sort of broke some sort of like barrier in terms of like how influential their wingers are and how high they play.
But that's because
how many goals they're scoring.
But that's due to their system, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, so let's have a look at some of the goals Mane scored. He's got 23 goals, 16, 22, 26, 20. Like, he's in and around that 20-goal mark every single season. Diaz has never scored 20 goals in his career. He got, 6 goals last season between Christmas and the end of the season, which is obviously all right, but Núñez is going to have to supplement Diaz's goal scoring, I think, compared to what we saw last season from Liverpool. They're obviously going to be one of the top 2 teams in the league, surely.
I think so, but I think if there's ever a time for, again, I don't think it's United, but I think if there's a time for Spurs to close the gap, I think it's this season, because I think that they've gambled a little bit. They've, like I said, replaced one of their major signings in Mane in terms of Núñez and Diaz, who I think are good players, but it could take them a little bit of time. You look to when Pep brought in Bernardo Silva and stuff, and you went, he's not quite there yet, and it took him 2 seasons, and then he was the player he is. And I feel like that might be the case with Núñez and Diaz, where they're good, but I just don't know whether they are gonna do the same as what Mane did for them. So I think that they might drop off. They might do that. But again, it's a big question mark over, can Salah stay fit the entire season? Because I still think he's very important. And Van Dijk as well, because I think Matip's very good. I think Gomez is very good. I think Canate. I think all good, but they're nowhere near where Van Dijk is. And I think without Van Dijk, any pairing is nowhere near the level it needs to be at. It's not, we'll go on to City, but it's not the way that... I think Ake is the only weak link in the 3 that they've got. I think you can put any combination of Stones, Laporte and Diaz and look good. I don't think you can do any combination of... You take Van Dijk out, I don't think you can do any combination of the 3 of them. No. So I think there's still that question mark over them, but look, I think that it'll be Liverpool, City. But I think the rest of the league, I think United will be better, I think Liverpool will be, I think Tottenham will be better, Arsenal will be better. I don't think they're going to be good enough. But I think there's going to be more people taking points off each other, and I think it'll be... I still think they'll be ahead, but they might be a little bit closer to everybody else.
Yeah. I think... Well, let's move on to City, actually, and get your thoughts in on City and Liverpool as well. It's horrible going through it all, but we have to. We're all about to watch the Premier League season. We all are going to watch every single one of these teams play football. City are second in terms of total spend. Almost all of that is coming on Haaland and Phillips. Julian Alvarez for 15.5 million, who is everyone's... Everyone is saying he's the one. He's a great little sign in there. Having never watched a single minute of him play, but I like that because he costs less than Haaland. Have you?
Yeah,
everyone's saying
that
it.
Person.
Yeah, everyone is that person. Everyone wants you to know. Actually, Alvarez is the one to watch out for this season. And now I've said it, you'll notice Everyone's saying it. Obviously, Haaland, 54 million. That was his buyout clause. Calvin Phillips, 43 million. And then Stefan Ortega on a free as well. City are currently, I believe, they've made money this summer.
They brought the Premier League record for the amount of income.
Have they?
Summer.
So they sold Sterling for 50 million.
75 mil.
Jesus for 50 or just under 50 million. Zinchenko 30 million. Pedro Porro for 7.6 million. Maybe that's included. Maybe that's in the year, because I think they sold Torres in January for 60 million euros, didn't they?
Frightening.
Which is one of the stupidest signings of all time. Anyway, do you think they've improved?
No.
Yes.
Do you not? You do?
Yes.
Okay, this is good. One yes, one no. Perfect.
They've got rid of Fernandinho and replaced him with Calvin Phillips, whose knees last year were made out of cardboard.
As with
I just don't.
Fernandinho's.
Yeah, but
Phillips.
Fernandinho, when he played, you knew exactly what you were getting from him. And when Rodri wasn't there, you put the captain of the team into there, and he looked good. I think Calvin Phillips is a good player. He's not that same player. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
he's
45 million
he's
quid.
arguably going to be better than Fernandinho for City.
Don't be daft.
They do the exact same thing.
At 36.
No, that's
you
what
don't
I'm-
mean 29-year-old Fernandinho.
Well,
I
Rodri's
mean,
gonna play every
I
week.
mean, like Rodri will play every week, but you have to think City managed to sign another starting defensive midfielder, arguably one of the strongest in the league, happily to play second fiddle. How's the power Paul done that? Unless there's something there where he's going to play a lot more, maybe sort of as an advanced 8 as he did. He was all right pushing forward with England. Don't forget, Fernandinho slotted in at centre half as well, just like Calvin Phillips has done for Leeds. The fact that I think he can do that, and he's got that versatility and the passing range that
think
he's
he's
got.
good.
I think that's why Pep Guardiola's gone for
I
him.
think he's pretty good. I think he's...
Would you talk about United?
Yes
No,
and no.
I
Yes,
wouldn't.
I
No.
would have done. I think he goes in. I think he's probably one of our better midfielders. But I think in the position we're in for midfielders, where the midfield we need to sign, which is looking like Frankie de Jong, needs to come in and play 55 games for United next season. And I think if United spent 45 million quid on someone who played 20 last season for Leeds, that's a massive risk. And I think that it's only one injury. It's an injury away of someone that's injury prone for being what we are now.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it would have worked out as well. Like I've said there, I think they've signed him as a backup to Rodri, or to play alongside Rodri and to rotate with Gundogan and things like that. That's fine for City. City are in the position where they can do that. But I don't think United can afford to spend 45 million on someone who is injury prone and
That would
isn't
be my
going to play.
concern. I think he's good. I think
really
he's
good.
obviously better as a CDM than McTominay, and I think as a defensive midfielder, he's better than Fred, because I don't think that's Fred's best role. But like you said, I'm just sick of having injury-prone players. Just give me someone who's going to play 40 games a season in all competitions, year in, year out. Like Bruno. I just love that he's available every week. Let alone the fact that he scores 20 goals a season.
Really?
He's
When has
never
he ever been
injured. It's
No,
great.
United.
That's what one of the reasons Ronaldo was so good. Obviously, he's just incredible. But not only, to score 900 goals, you have to be fit for 1,400 games. That's not just from a physical perspective, it's so hard to stay fit every week for 15 years. And I'm just one of the things that felt like such a letdown with Pogba is, even when he built up head of steam, even when he was at his best, we saw him when, like we said, top of the league in January. What was it? Season before last? Paul Pogba gets injured for 3 months, comes back. Where are we? Third? Second, sorry, and well behind City. I just think I'm sick of having players that you rely on and get ill and get injured all the time.
Same thing with Eric Bailly. Eric Bailly's a very good. There's question marks. Is he our best centre half this summer? Well, yeah, he might be, but he's not going to play because he's been injured his entire time at Manchester United. You can't
rely on that.
keep relying on them. And people go, you can't keep giving clean slates to Martial. Well, he stays fit a bit more than someone. If he can play 50 games, Eric Bailly's never done that for United, and I don't think you can. You can't rely on that at all.
He's not played more than 30 games in a season since he got promoted to the Premier League. Calvin Phillips.
But going back to
Just not quite enough.
Going back to City,
Yeah, let's talk about
Haaland, Alvarez, good signings, but I think the solidity you got of they knew what Jesus was doing. Whether I think he's good enough or not is one question. You knew what he could do. He knew the system. They were happy. Sterling, you mentioned there, his numbers. He was always scoring 30 goals here, there, and everywhere. Probably them after Aguero, probably the most prolific player under Pep. Probably top goal scorer under Pep. Maybe
He might even be the top goal
probably
scorer.
scored more
He is
goals.
top
under
goal
Pep.
scorer under
Yeah.
Pep. Yeah.
You've sold him now.
That is actually mad, isn't it? You think, I know you've only just made me realise that, Man City have just sold the person who scored the most goals since in their most successful period in history. Because we can talk about Yaya Toure in 2012 and all that. The best they've ever been is the last 5 years when they've won 4 leagues in 5 seasons. That's the best City have ever been. And Raheem Sterling has scored more goals than anyone in that time. And they've just sold him.
I think
that's not necessarily a good idea.
Similar to Liverpool. I think Haaland and Alvarez will be very good players for Manchester City. I don't think they are bad signings, but I think in the short term of next season, losing someone you knew what you were getting and you knew the quality of them is a big risk. And even Jesus going, the Zinchenko one, I think he's just a backup player, but at the same time, they've not got this Cucurella deal over the line. And if they go into next season with Cancelo, who's their only left back, who's actually a right back, I'm not too sure I don't think they're stronger with those players. Now, look, they sign Cucurella and they get another midfielder because there's the questions about Bernardo Silva. Barcelona are still after him. They still think that they want him and
Barcelona
Dion
are after
everybody,
Barcelona
which is ridiculous.
Marcus Alonso, Azpilicueta and Bernardo Silva on top of the players they've already bought.
I think City fans are the same feeling at the minute of, yes, Haaland is very good. Grealish will get better this season than he was last. You've still got Foden. You've still got a lot of quality footballers. But there's that bit of, if they don't quite get it this season and we don't replace the players that we've got rid of, it might, Liverpool could just be better than them because they've only got rid of Mane and they're replacing him with, they've already kind of replaced him.
Do you think City will win the league?
I think they're probably favourites too. I think they're still the best. On paper, they're still the best team. I still even think if you don't put the new signings in, I still think they've not got a bad. You could play Foden, Grealish, and Mahrez as your front three, and it's still pretty good. Yeah. You don't need to play any of the new signings, and they've still probably got one of the best 11s in the league. I think that it all depends on whether Haaland works. There's this question mark over. He's not a pet player. He's a very, very different player. Yeah. He's tried it in the past with Ibrahimovic. He didn't like him. He got rid of him. His best time has been with the number 9s that link up and do all that. He's not had that success with an out number 9. But like you mentioned, like everyone's saying, Alvarez might be the one. And if Haaland doesn't do it, Alvarez slots in. And if he doesn't do it, you can still play Foden there. You can still play Grealish there and Mahrez there. They have so many players in them front positions that Haaland could have a stinker, Alvarez could get injured, and they still could score 100 goals a season.
Yeah. The thing for me is, and I'm in full agreement with both of you in the sense that losing Sterling, I think, was a daft decision to make because he's been the most prolific under Pep Guardiola. He's been fantastic under him. But how many times, if the fewer, because it's not a lot, it doesn't really happen a lot. When Manchester City failed to score, they seem to be sort of very important games where they drop points and they allow Liverpool sort of a little glimmer of hope, especially last season when they dropped points to get them back into the title race, if you will. The fact that I just think Haaland is completely different to sort of any other potential player Pep Guardiola's worked with, in a sense that he's so young, but he's an out-and-out centre-forward. I think you can't compare Messi with it because he's been a winger and everything.
I do think he will be good.
That's the thing.
I
guarantee he'll come good.
If he will come good immediately.
He has to keep fit.
If you drop 8 points in the first 10 games of the season, that might be enough. Do you know what I mean? And part of it is almost out of fear, because I would much rather City win the league than Liverpool.
I think everyone would, to be honest, in the Premier League, apart from Liverpool fans, really, wouldn't they? But I do think Haaland will come good for him, because the only problem is with him, you have to keep him fit. Yeah. Because he was quite injury prone in the Bundesliga, and the Premier League is arguably the most physical league in the world in terms of how many sort of dirty centre halves you come up against who will just literally boot you into Rose Ed if and when they get the opportunity.
It does feel like it's Pep's second team. It's the first time I think he's done it at a club where he's had to go again. I think he's, the Barcelona team was there for him and he built that team up to being very good. The Bayern team was there for him. He added players and did very well. He's built the City team. He's now recycling some of these players. You're seeing Sterling, who, yes, got there beforehand, but he was a Pep Guardiola signing beforehand. And De Bruyne, there's question marks whether he's going to start every game and whether he's quite, he's in that recycling mode, and it's, can he do that? And Ferguson did well because he did that and won while still going. He had that little blip from 2003 where he recycled and didn't win for a few years. It's whether that could happen to Pep, where in 2000, very similar stuff where you sign the best striker out there and available. We signed Van Nistelrooy, he signs that. He signed a Varane in Jack Grealish kind of thing. And it didn't work for 3 years. And the team for 2003, 2004, 2005 was potentially better than it was on paper than before. And then all of a sudden, you don't win. And that's the question, is that might happen. That might be, it doesn't quite click straight away. But I still think they've got enough quality to.
Yeah. And Haaland is a great player.
Oh, yeah.
My biggest concern with Haaland is how many times, here's a question for you, in his whole career, going back to 2015 when he was, 15, has he played more than 30 games in a season for a club? How many times? Twice? Once. He's only ever played more than 30 games for a club in a single season once. And that was 2 years ago. That would be my worry with Haaland. If I was a City fan, and he's only 22, he's not got 10, 15 years to draw on there. But that's 4 or 5 years being one of the most promising strikers in the world. And he's only played more than 30 games one time. That's my worry with City. If you start to rely on a big number 9 like that, when he's not fit, can you then switch it back in time? Especially when the margins are so slim at the top. When you're getting 90+ points every season, I'd rather they won the league than
I think
Liverpool.
they could, because they know what they're doing, don't they? They've worked on it so much in terms of that false 9 position that they've been playing. They've had number 9s who've been out of favour, as you mentioned with Gabriel Jesus. They know what they need to do in that formation. I just think they'll have to adapt more with a natural number 9. And I think on that point, despite the fact that he's not played over 30 games in more than one season, right, his goal record makes up for it. For the fact that when he's there,
games and get you 29 goals.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
when the fact that he's there, he's still posting better numbers than players who have had 38, 40 games for their entire career. True. So I think that's probably the risk that they've taken,
obviously
knowing
it's a considered
that.
risk,
but it's the same thing with Nunes, is that people are already picking up on it. People are already doing clips of him missing all them chances of the games, and I think he's aware of that. And I think that if he doesn't score, hit the ground running, I think people.
He's never had a dry spell in his whole career, Haaland. That'll be interesting to see if he gets, let's say, 1 goal in 10 league games. How he comes back from that. We've got a few super chats. Andres Carl, we've read that one. Michael Dyson says, I think we should sign Giroud. He's tall and handsome, which is exactly what we need. Great point, Michael. It's not quality, it's looks. Jacob OC says, up the paddock, looking forward to the season. Thought we actually played some of our best football in ages yesterday in that first half. Martinez looks great. Interesting. I'm not necessarily of the same opinion, but I don't think we were terrible. Mike93 says, I'm up for giving everyone a clean slate and seeing how they do under Ten Hag and judging from there. Martial and Maguire, players I wanted gone, have looked good. I agree with that. And Jimmy F says, would Stretford Paddock FC beat the England women's team? Absolutely not.
No chance.
That's going to be all from us. Alex Bagley, welcome back to England. How was your tour out of 10? Single word?
I'm going to go 8.
8, very
8's
nice.
very good, just expensive.
Yeah, Jordan, 60 quid for a chicken and chips, unbelievable. Thank you very much, Jordan, for coming down as well. Where can people find you, mate?
JD Simpson 90 on Twitter.
JD Simpson 98. Baggers
Alex. Oslo was amazing, by the way. We were going to mention it, and the amount of, I don't think they maybe covered this on TV as much. I don't know because I wasn't watching it, but the 29,000 people in that stadium, there was 28,500 Manchester United fans. It was
it looked like it was literally like 30 to 1.
The whole city was United fans everywhere.
Brilliant.
It was ridiculous.
Great stuff. Right, thank you very much. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you check out Manscaped. Link is in the description. Again, use the code DEVILS20 for 20% off and free shipping. Hit the notification bell as well, so you see as soon as we go live. We are live every single time there is breaking news. If there's an update on De Jong, if we sign Šeško, if someone gets sacked, if anything happens, we will be live. So hit that notification bell so you can see it first. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you in a bit.